Hello and welcome to the Print Political Adda. I am Sourav Barman. On Wednesday, the Modi government announced that it will carry out caste enumeration as part of the next decadal population census. We don't know yet when that is going to happen because the government has not committed to a time frame. But the announcement has shaken up national politics. The opposition, particularly the Congress party, has been claiming vindication as the party had been persistently demanding that the center should carry out a nationwide caste census. The BJP, on the other hand, was so far quite ambivalent about the issue. And in fact, some voices from the party had even rejected the possibility of any such exercise. So before we go into the politics of it, in this Adda, we have been joined by Sharan Poovanna, our associate editor from Bangalore, Mr. A.R. Nanda, former Registrar General of India and Caste Census Commissioner, as well as Professor Harish Wankhede from Jawaharlal Nehru University, who specializes in social justice and secularism. Before we go into the politics of it, Mr. Nanda, you were the Census Commissioner between 1989 and 1994.
Yes.
You have seen very close, if you can take us through the intricacies of a national population census, what does a population census entail?
Yes. The population census, as you know, it entails a complete enumeration of population throughout the region, whether it is a country, entire countrywide, and which takes you to the last village, 6,35,000 villages in India, and about 6,000 urban areas. So every house has to be listed, numbered, and then the houseless population also has to be located, and there is a provision to go for enumerating the houseless population on one night or 2 nights. So which means nothing has to be left out. And Indian census, as you know, has been held since 1881, the simultaneous census. Of course, 1872, there was a census which was done in different times, different areas. But since 1881, every 10 years, it has been held simultaneously during a period of 3 weeks or 4 weeks, with a revisional round of 1 week. And this is without any break, whether there was a world war or, until 2011. But 2021 has been a difficult time, because of COVID and all the reasons. So it entails, as you know, preparing a framework of the villages. That means the village list has to be updated because new villages come up during this period of 10 years. New settlements come up. New urban areas are notified. So all these territorial settlements, the areas, have to be listed about 2 years in advance. They have to be updated. And then, after thorough training, an exercise has to be done, which is known as the first stage of census taking, namely the house numbering and house listing operation. So it is done about 9 months to 1 year before the actual census taking. So actual census. So after that, the house listing and house numbering. What happens is if the frame is updated, and you get a list of all settlements of population, whether in a hilltop, in the distant, remote hills, Himalayas, mountains, in a cave, nothing is left out, or in an island, small island, just one person living or nobody living, nothing is left out. So once it is done, then the list is updated and accordingly the main census takes place. But it also entails thorough intensive training of the census personnel, which involves training these officers in charge of census at various places in a block or a tahsil or a municipal area. Then they in turn will train the supervisors of census. Then finally, the enumerators of census, who are basically people available at the village level or at the enumeration level, enumerators level in the urban areas. These are basically school teachers, and sometimes other than school teachers also people are taken. So this involves, and as you know, the 2021 census, there has been an attempt to digitize the census. So digitization is another add-on, which means it will be a digital census, will entail very, very thorough training. Then they have to give the instrument sets, which will be basically a smart this thing card, which they have to record things in the smartphones. And so, but all these are entailed. But the accuracy of the figures and the quality of the census, quality of the replies, the answers are very important. And Indian census has a reputation of a net under enumeration rate of not more than 2% overall. That means if you have enumerated 150 crores of population, so there will be about 2% will be missed. That is natural. And this is one of the least in the world. Even in the advanced countries of US and UK and other places, there have been very higher underreporting because they go for what is known as the other method, not the canvasser method. Ours is canvassing because they go and canvass, ask the question and then put it. And since they are the local people, local school teachers, they are well acquainted with the population. They are well acquainted with the houses. They are well acquainted with who lives there. So nobody can just block them. So that is why the accuracy rate is so less. But then urban areas, it goes more. It is not 2%, it may be 4%, it may be 5%, because urban areas, the familiarity of the enumerators with the people who live, in particular in multi-storied buildings, apartments and others, is much less. So these entail, the census is a huge exercise. And as far as as you say, the questionnaire is concerned, more or less it has remained the same, except a few questions which are added or which are excluded. And
we'll come back to you, sir. We'll come back to you and talk about how the Indian population census is such a foolproof exercise, has not been conducted since 2011. And we'll go into the technical details as well. But before we do that, I just wanted to bring in Professor Wankhede and talk about yesterday's announcement, which took the entire political class off guard. And you and I, journalists and commentators, are no exceptions. And so, what do you make of the timing of this announcement? Because
of course it was expected. Why? Because from last one decade, the way opposition has created a huge uproar around this issue, what they call social justice and the constitutional merits. And the Congress party was leading that particular rhetoric for a very long time. And BJP was for a very long time was little offended by this kind of an allegation that BJP is not doing much more on this particular issue. And of course, the upcoming elections in Bihar, of course, and Karnataka, or for that matter, West Bengal or in Maharashtra, there are multiple churnings going on, which suggests that BJP needs to put some effort to deal with this particular issue. And probably to examine that, this is an attempt that BJP come up with. And of course, as I said, that probably the BJP was on somewhere, was not defending its position for a very long time, though there was a kind of a suggestion that BJP has become an OBC party in last 2 decades. But what exactly they have delivered to the OBCs, on that when the opposition was basically making a question or challenging against the BJP, it was this kind of an effort that BJP wanted to suggest, that they are also keenly understand the need for caste census, because of which certain new data will emerge, and through that a new policy framework can be enlarged for the OBCs. Therefore, probably BJP is now understand that kind of limitation which they had, and the benefits that the opposition, mainly the Congress party and RJD in Bihar, was basically exploiting out of this issue. I think to counter that, to make sense that BJP is also equally eager and understand the issues and problems of the OBCs, and therefore probably enumeration within the upcoming census will be required, and therefore to portray that they are not against what the opposition is continuously portraying. I think that's why this particular movement is basically created, and suggested that BJP is now coming in forefront with the opposition to examine what OBC's problem is today.
But don't you feel this shift in the BJP's position was very abrupt? Because even after the Pahalgam attack, we saw the party come up with this poster where they spoke about how the terrorists did not talk about the caste of the victims, but
right. No, that concern or that allegation against the Congress was there for a very long time. That Congress is somewhere, because of the caste census or because of even the issue of social justice, trying to divide the country. And BJP is for the unity of the nation, and the larger Hindu unity is required for the larger progress of the country. That is an old rhetoric that BJP understands. But
during Lok Sabha elections, PM spoke about "Ek hai to safe hai." Yogi Adityanath spoke about "Batenge to katenge."
But probably on ground, when they are serving their political party or the other mass organization that BJP work with, when they survey the election, probably they got this particular sense that on the ground, more than the larger rhetoric of Hindu unity, it is the concern for the OBCs or EBCs upliftment that is now taking very sharp take, mainly in Bihar's preparation. And therefore, probably these ground realities which are now shifting, which is now suggesting that the lower OBCs, mainly the EBCs, are now asking the BJP leadership at what they have done for the upliftment or empowerment of the marginalized social groups. And therefore, to rectify that, to understand that this is a very, very important and crucial issues that is going on at the ground, and therefore probably BJP has taken up this act very seriously. And it is also showcasing that they are now deeply engaged with the social atmosphere, especially after the debacle in Uttar Pradesh in general elections. They understand that there is a very strong EBC problem that BJP is facing, that EBC is not surely voting for the BJP. And therefore, to somewhere examine and understand that problem, I think this particular idea that caste census will somewhere rectify that problem, and BJP will emerge as a party that understands the logic of social justice. And therefore, probably it has abruptly come up in the time when there were multiple other issues. But BJP surely can do that, and they have the kind of a power and organizational skills because of which they can pull these issues.
Right. Mr. Nanda, if I can come back to you.
Please.
So this is for the first time in independent India that caste will be counted, OBCs will be counted as part of the census exercise. I mean, SCs and STs are counted, they have been counted in the past as well, but OBCs have not been counted. In 2011, we had a socioeconomic and caste census, but that was not part of the population census exercise. It was not conducted under the 1948 Census Act. So do you think we need to have a constitutional amendment to count OBCs as part of the decadal population census? Is that a requirement?
Well, I don't think there is any necessity of a constitutional amendment. But you see, under the Census Act, there are provisions of how to finalize the questionnaire. Now, there are already, you see, 1931 census, as you know, caste was being asked. And caste, that was the last, I think, time that each caste, irrespective of whether they are backward or forward or whatever, the caste was being enumerated. After 31, it was given up for various reasons, because they had, I think there were also, the accuracy of the data was in question. The quality of the data was also questioned. And then it was getting difficult, and the census was getting what you call distorted. Census operation, if it becomes controversial and distorted too much, then the whole question of the faith in census data will be questioned. I mean, will be there. So, for various reasons, from 1941 onwards, and particularly after the independence, when this question was being posed, whether caste will be asked, the Home Minister of that time, Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel, I have read the statement of Dr. Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel on the census taking.
Yeah.
He has very clearly said that we are now an independent country. So the Britishers were using 1931 and all those areas because of divide and rule. They were asking all these questions. It is not necessary. We will be a casteless society and blah, blah, all that. You see, this will not be asked, except the constitutional requirement of scheduled castes and scheduled tribes, where the name of the tribe or name of the caste only of that scheduled caste or scheduled tribe will be enumerated. That has been going on. Now, the question is, this was being posed. Even in 1991 census, I was requested, one chief minister, the then chief minister of Bihar, came to me and wanted that we should introduce, because Mandal Commission report had come just prior to the census. So he wanted that we should have a full caste census in the census itself. And I had to examine this and put it up. I explained to him that this is what the Home Minister has said in 51 census, and this is the stand that has been taken by government on this line. So there is no reason why it should be changed now, because, you know, bringing in that thing will create a lot of controversy, and it will be, the data will be more or less inaccurate. It will not be proper. There will be a lot of what you call bias in the data, as it is happening, for example, for the Nagaland. The tribes are fighting with each other to over-enumerate themselves as a tribe. And we had to cancel many cases. Some of the areas, the census data is not available because it has become completely distorted in Nagaland. So with all this, it was decided not to hold a caste census, except for scheduled castes or scheduled tribes. But the question has been raised every time after the Mandal Commission report has come, and maybe there is a valid reason for government and for public to know their position, particularly the OBCs and ABCs. You see this, so that is why this is being posed. Now it is the party in power most of the time was the Congress party then. And they were opposed to it in a way, because as the government. But now I think there is a realization that caste has to be enumerated. Okay. If caste has to be enumerated, my advice is that it will require a lot of preparatory work, because we have, similar to caste, there are also questions on mother tongue language and language. Now, that is also a very sensitive issue. So we get returns which goes into, raw returns goes into about more than 10,000. Then it is rationalized because there are, the sociolinguists are invited, there a lot of rationalization takes place. So this it comes down to about 600 or 700 from 8,000, 10,000. So would they allow a similar thing? Because caste is a slightly different thing. Language is all right, but even then that is being questioned, because they say that if you cannot suppress a language, suppress a dialect, suppress a sub-language, so this is going to be more difficult. And even for language, we have a preparation which goes for almost 5 years, 6 years. There is a linguistic survey of India which was done between year 1900 and 1926. The report came then. And that has remained the basis of the rationalization. Will rationalization be allowed here? Saying that these are the 5 castes which have been enumerated, they will come under one caste, because they are not really 5. They are similar. So this sort of rationalization, will it be allowed? Will it be accepted? Because in the controversy, because all this is taking place because the reservations that are there is further going to be sort of further, what you call it will be distributed amongst all the castes. And if there are, let us say, 4,000 community or 6,000 communities, caste communities, or it may be more, I'm sure it will be more than 10,000, because different states, the same name will carry another caste. Same people will not be one caste, but 5 castes.
Right.
So all this, so the sociologists and the socio-anthropologists will have to be consulted. They will have to prepare based on whatever surveys have been done in the past, like 2011 study. However, they are not come out with that. Obviously, there are some problems. So all these have to be taken into consideration. If government wants to conduct a census caste with that, all castes,
Right.
then I'm sure they will have to wait till 2041 census. It will take that much of a time for preparation. At least by 2031 they may, but it will be 5 years, 6 years. Hurriedly they might do. But if they want to do it next year, as they're thinking next year.
No, there is no time frame as of now. We don't know. And
no
government is planning to do as of now.
Year or year after that.
As of now, we just have one announcement from the government that we are going to count caste as part of the next census.
Yeah,
they have not given us any date. They have not given us any date.
You are very right. But if that is done next year or year after next, then it will be a disaster, because these preparations are a must. And more so when you are going to have a digital census.
Right. And they have not even, if I may, they have not even allotted any money in the annual budget.
But that they can do. I mean, the government can put some money. 2026, they will say, will be the first stage of house listing, house numbering. We have sufficient time. What they will do is now immediately frame has to be prepared. Frame of tahsils, subdivisions, districts, and then they will put a stay order that no more division of this thing, districts and all that. If they do it, then they can do a 2026 April to September house numbering, and followed by 2027 February, March, a real count. But what I'm afraid that by then, will they be able to rationalize the caste themes with all these various consultation? It requires Herculean task. If they can do it, let them do it.
Right.
Otherwise, they have to wait till 2031 at least. Something could be done.
Right. Sharan, if you want to
Ideally, 2041.
Right.
So, if I may come in, Sourav, the question is to Mr. Harish Wankhede. So, I want to know, now the Congress has for a very long time, they've claimed caste census. Rahul Gandhi has been demanding for this for a very long time. And now the BJP has actually announced it. And there are, there are arguments that though the Congress was in power for so many years and had made it a political platform, they never did conduct it, and that credit should go to the BJP. Of course, this is the BJP's argument. Now, has the BJP sort of, stolen the pole plank that the Congress, has used for so many years?
Right. Now, this is the first reaction. I think this is the first reaction that the BJP has snatched the very important issue of the opposition today, that they agreed that they will be conducting a caste census soon. But probably the issue is not just that BJP is willing to do that. I think there is a political necessity to which BJP is responding. And as I said, that probably the Bihar political survey by the BJP's multiple social and cultural organization must have somewhere suggested the top leadership that this issue is extremely important in Bihar's coming assembly election. And probably to somewhere, as I said, to rectify that, that the way Congress and the RJD is pushing this particular issue in a very harsh and hard manner in the political debates, I think BJP has to respond to that. And probably all other models which BJP had, the rhetoric of Hindu unity for that matter, or the communal agenda that BJP wanted to promote often, probably that is not surely functioning well in this kind of a North Indian belt. And therefore, probably to make some kind of a defense of their politics, which has been carried out with the idea that BJP is now a new OBC party. It is hardly remained the old party of the upper caste. Now it is a mass party and mainly responding to the issues and the concerns of the marginalized social groups. And therefore, to defend that, they need a strategy. And probably on that particular background, they were little challenged by the Congress and the opposition. And to rectify that, this is an issue which has come up in a very handy way to the power. Second, what Dr. Nanda was again suggesting, that probably the technical part of it is crucial. But more than that, I think the need of this kind of a survey, this kind of a census. Like for that matter, we have multiple surveys earlier, from Kaka Kalilkar to Mandal to Gopal Singh to Ranganath Mishra. All these big commissions report or multiple other reports are very much there. And those are the handy tools for the government to make any policy framework. And therefore, to announce any beneficiary policy or any affirmative action policy for the marginalized social groups, they don't need a caste census for that. I think it is just to what you call puncture the BJP, the Congress's allegation that the BJP is not willing to conduct caste census and they are not careful about the social justice issue. I think this issue become very handy for them. And therefore, if they wanted to bring any policy framework for the upliftment of the marginalized social group, they can do without any survey or even for that matter caste census. Like for that matter, the EWS reservation policy. BJP bought it without any consultation, without any survey, without any caste census. So if they have the political will, they can do that. And therefore, more than the technicality of it, I think it is the political will which one has to question and ask, that whether the BJP should sincerely understand the need for this particular policy framework, or they are doing it for some kind of a political game playing. That they wanted to somewhere marginalize or relegate the bigger demand of the opposition, that there is a requirement of the caste census. I think BJP is very, very clever in when they announce this particular suggestion that they will be conducting without telling the time. I think they are extremely clever, and they understand that somewhere they wanted to challenge the Congress's plank on caste census.
Sharan, if I may ask, earlier this month, the Karnataka government, the Congress government in Karnataka, accepted this decade-old survey, the socio-economic and educational survey report. The Siddaramaiah cabinet had accepted the report, and it is yet to deliberate on the recommendations of the report. So, what exactly are the major findings of the report, and what has been the political ramifications in Karnataka after this entire thing was accepted, this report was accepted? How has the parties reacted?
So, I mean, just to go a little recap, when Siddaramaiah was in his first term as chief minister, in 2015, he commissioned the socio-economic and educational survey. But after that report was submitted in less than 2 months to the then government. But then the Siddaramaiah government had 3 years after that, in 2018. 2018, they lost power. They came in power with the coalition of JDS, but they did not release the report. Then there was 4 years of BJP. They did not release the report. And finally, nearly 2 years into their 2023 assembly victory and then coming to power, they've now decided to release this. Not decide to release it, actually to acknowledge that the government has finally accepted this report. After accepting the report, of course, in 2015 as well, there was several leaked data that came to the reporters. This time as well, it's at least some 50 to 100 volumes. We've also received some data, and ThePrint has also done some stories on this, on what the findings are. Now, the main problem is the so-called dominant communities in Karnataka, such as the Vokkaligas and Lingayats. Now, they for a very long time claimed a certain dominant status based or presuming that their numbers are, 14, 17%, and, a certain number without much empirical evidence, of course. And Siddaramaiah, the leaked findings that we have received, of course, which has not been authenticated or acknowledged by the government. Leaked findings. The leaked findings suggest that the Vokkaligas and the Lingayats, the so-called dominant communities, do not have the numbers that they claim that they have. Now, what happens in a caste, sort of sensitive state like Karnataka is communities trump party affiliations. So political leaders, even from the Congress, BJP or JDS, will oppose it based on what their community's stand is. Right? So Siddaramaiah's own deputy, D.K. Shivkumar is from the Vokkaliga community. He has opposed the caste census. MP Patil, another key, member of Siddaramaiah's cabinet from the Lingayat community, has opposed it. So they've stood more with the community stand than the party stand. So it has caused quite a few problems in Karnataka for Siddaramaiah. And for a very long time, it's claimed that Siddaramaiah, who, he enjoys the support of what in Karnataka is called Ahinda, which was a combination of minorities, backward classes, and Dalits. He's enjoyed their support, and he's said to always have challenged the dominance claimed by Vokkaligas and Lingayats. So yes, there is some friction within the Congress, within the larger political landscape and the larger social landscape of Karnataka because of the leaked findings. And all of them are planning to do their own surveys or forcing the chief minister to release these surveys. So there's a lot of political ramifications. Yes, Siddaramaiah actually now has a lot of flexibility, considering that the union government has now, decided to carry out a caste census. So he cannot be blamed for not trying to attempt a caste census and then go for social justice, his main poll platform. And he'll have a lot more credibility because the BJP and JDS for a long time have accused him of trying to break the Hindu society, create caste divisions and so on. And now the BJP under Modi themselves have announced a caste census. So he finds himself in a very, in a very comfortable position right now, thanks to the union government's announcement.
But can I come in, Sourav?
Yes.
I think the Bihar caste survey was a different case altogether. What the other expert had just suggested, that the Karnataka already had a multiple complexities vis-a-vis the caste survey, but the Bihar experience on caste survey was a very, very distinct and different. Why? Because all parties, including the BJP, welcomed that and suggested that this is an important document for the for making policies for the marginalized social groups, and the new kind of a category that had emerged in the Bihar caste survey, mainly the EBCs, that they are basically lagging on every front of economic and social and educational development. So I think the Bihar caste census, caste survey had that kind of a consensus that this kind of an exercise is required. And this exercise so surely showcase that what are the now conditions of the people on economic and educational backgrounds, and what the state must do to overcome those what you call laggings or the difficulties that people are facing. And therefore, probably the Bihar experience was very much different from the kind of a controversy that Karnataka has recently witnessed.
And we saw Telangana also carrying out a survey.
Right.
So before we wind up, I have one last question and this goes out to both Mr. Nanda and you. How useful is a caste census going to be in the absence of, we have this Supreme Court imposed cap of 50% on reservations across India except Tamil Nadu. So how useful is caste census going to be if that cap is not done away with? What are we going to do with the findings?
Shall I come in first? Or?
Sure.
Okay. Now, as I said, that probably it is what I call the political will of the government, which is most important. If they believe that caste census and the data is required for them to create any affirmative action policy, then they are basically lying. Why? Because to make any policy for the welfare of the marginalized social group, they don't need data. And EWS policy is basically a very wide example of that. Supreme Court has consistently suggested that the available surveys and data are not sufficient, and therefore the government should conduct a vast census. And you already, Nanda sir, already suggested that it will be a huge exercise, and it will not be completed in a very short span of time. And therefore, if government surely wanted that caste census will be there so that they can get a raw data around which they can come up with a policy framework, I don't think there is a logic behind that. And as I said, that there are already multiple surveys and commission reports available around which the government can take up a very strong stand to promote any welfare policy. And therefore, caste census is not a kind of a requirement on which data the government will act. It is just a kind of enumeration of the population, and it will showcase what kind of communities and caste are there in our country and who are basically gaining what kind of economic assets in this country. So that is a kind of a normal exercise that every government, every country has to promote and project. But that will be necessary for any policy framework. I doubt that. Why? Because as I said, like for that matter, the Rohini Commission report, it is lying with the parliament for a very long time, and it is about the intra-dynamics of the OBC communities and how the OBC's welfare should be promoted, and that document is lying in the parliament. It is not made public yet, and therefore probably there are other reports and surveys and documents and texts which can help the government to promote any welfare policy, and for that I don't think a caste census is required.
Mr. Rahul Gandhi spoke about how the numbers will help the government develop a new kind of a development paradigm. So you don't think
numbers, as I said, those numbers are already there. Means if you see, for that matter, even the judiciary, if you only check in a very cursory way, that how many judges from the lower social background, OBCs or Dalits or tribals, are there in the judiciary, it will be just a task of half an hour. In today's time, you don't require a census to understand how power is functioning in India. Judiciary or corporate sector or educational institutes, to make sense of these places, you don't need a caste census. You know that power is dominated by similar kind of people for a very long time.
Mr. Nanda?
I agree with Harish ji. You see that census is not the appropriate instrument for getting the caste picture, because what is happening, Census Act, it is mandatory that there is confidentiality of information. It cannot be individual information or information of a family or household cannot be divulged. These are strict confidential in nature. Otherwise, the census people will not cooperate. Now, the question is, that is why census raw data of a family or a individual or house is not at all tabulated. They are not sort of, it doesn't become a statistics. Statistics is taken for, I mean, sometimes for some statistics, it's only village as a unit. Some statistics, even village is not taken because it will put them into sometimes torture and all that. You know, if they know the data, they will start exploiting them, or there will be killings as it has happened. So it has to be given only for a tahsil, so many villages, for a block. So these are aggregated and collective. So census has a different objective altogether. Scheduled caste is a different, because that is a constitutional requirement, and that also is not shared at the individual level. So far as the certificate is concerned, that's a different thing. They will go to the authorities and get a certificate. Anybody can go. Why do you need a census? They can ask everybody to be there. I mean, they can announce that whoever is from this caste, OBC caste, let them come, let them show their data, I mean the evidence, and then the caste certificate is given, OBC certificate. Why do you need data for villages, for families, for individuals to be shared? It is illegal under the Census Act. So that is not going to solve the problem. And in any case, that will destroy this. The basic census taking will be destroyed.
So in light of what you just said, Mr. Nanda, I just want to know, I mean, what you've just said, is the caste census then really required? I mean, are we going in for an exercise that's going to, cost us huge amount of money, resources, and time, and at the end of it may not be required, like you say?
And this question goes out to both of you.
Yes. Yeah.
Let me come in first. There is just one extra column that the caste census has to add, which will be enumerating the OBCs. The rest of the columns are, of course, there, and that exercise is going to take place for sure. What the OBC caste census will do is, of course, what they often be suggested, that there is no scientific data available on the OBCs, and what we have are mainly surveys and some commission reports. And therefore, to have legitimacy to the claims and demands that OBCs are now consistently making, we need to have some kind of a sanctioning, some kind of a legitimacy to that demands. And probably the census data will provide that kind of a legitimacy and sanction. The rest of the data are, of course, there, but probably the legitimacy will come only with the caste census because of its neutrality, because of the kind of a huge exercise that the caste census does, and therefore that kind of exercise will create some kind of a legitimacy to the demands of the OBCs.
Yes, I think I agree that this may be the objective, but the question is, which is, a census exercise which is so vast and so much money is spent all over. So there, like you ask a scheduled caste, do you belong to scheduled caste? If so, what is the name of your caste? So similarly, they will ask, do you belong to OBC backward class? If so, name of the caste. So that can be provided. But the question is how accurate it would be. Okay. So for that, and the data, use of the data, because once it comes, it has to be scrutinized. If you don't scrutinize, then it becomes raw data, and it will be used as such, like it is being used, scheduled caste. Right. Who knows whether it is correct? Scheduled caste. Somebody says, I belong to scheduled caste, and this is my caste. So what we do is, we look at the castes which are enumerated as scheduled caste as per the constitution. Then If it is not, then that is ticked out. That is excluded. So similar situation may arise here also.
Right.
Sir, one last question to Mr. Nanda here. Sir, Karnataka has already conducted a caste census. They have, the cabinet has accepted the caste census. Yes, of course, it needs to be implemented. Now, I want to know, sir, now when the center conducts, if and when they do conduct the caste census, will that data, nullify and make redundant the Karnataka data, or can Karnataka retain its data for its implementation? How does that scenario work now, sir?
Well, under the Census Act, census is a union subject. Under the Census Act, it is the responsibility of the union government. Although the census is implemented through the state government, through the district, through the panchayats, etc. But it is basically a union action of the union government. Now, under the Census Act, I don't know in Karnataka how they have conducted a census.
No, they cannot. They cannot. State government cannot conduct a census. They can only conduct.
Absolutely. So if they have conducted it, it is a house-to-house survey. You can address call. And there also, you see, there is a survey act. So, but I don't know whether they have conformed to that also.
It is a survey.
It is a survey, sir. It is a survey. About 90
survey. They call it census. It is survey.
Yeah.
So survey is a estimate. At best, an estimate. So when the union does a census and that data comes, that will prevail over this as far as the overall profile or picture is concerned.
Right. And therefore, there is more legitimacy to that kind of a data.
Yeah.
All right. So I think it's time to wrap up. I think we have tried to address every possible dimension in this debate. And in the days and months to come, we'll be tracking this particular announcement, and we'll see when the government actually rolls out the census. Thank you, Sharan. Thank you, Mr. Wankhede. Thank you, Mr. Nanda.
Thank you. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much.